Here we go again. What is up, Finn fans? Extremely late night video. It is 1 o'clock of me recording this. I just got home about an hour or so ago, seeing the Blue Beetle. It was all right. Wasn't bad, wasn't great. It was all right. Definitely should have went straight to Max like it originally was supposed to, but I didn't hate it. I thought it was good. Funny parts, all that stuff. But if you can tell by the title, and I've made this video before. I made this video about Dalvin Cook. I'm going to give you everything I know, or better yet, everything I can tell you about what is going on with the Miami Dolphins and Jonathan Taylor. Now, again, when I went back, if you go back and watch the video on everything you need to know about Dalvin Cook's situation, I told you guys that it's about the money. Dalvin Cook needed to come down and the Dolphins needed to come up. Didn't happen. He was gone. I'm going to do the same thing in this video where I'm going to prepare you. I'm going to tell you what is happening. I'm going to tell you what needs to happen. And I'm going to tell you, in my opinion, do I think it's going to happen? And again, I'm giving you all the facts and all the information, and then you can make your decision, and I'll give you mine, right? So first and foremost, let me get you up to date. Now, Barry Jackson is a very well acclaimed, doesn't lie, what he says is, 9 times out of 10 happens, right? I trust Barry Jackson. I suggest you follow him on Twitter. It's a great follow. This is what he said yesterday, because it's 1 o'clock, at 4:30 when it comes to Jonathan Taylor. He says, talks with Miami and Colts are ongoing. Whether Miami is willing to meet Colts demand must play out, but Dolphins trying to get the deal done. And that is a retweet, a quote tweet or whatever, because it's not Twitter anymore, of him saying our pal and Heat tag team partner Holden Steven says 6 teams have called about Taylor. Dolphins are among them and are pursuing, as we reported today, can confirm that Taylor camp has been given to, the permission. Then Barry Jackson also came out and said Dolphins pursuing, doubt Colts get precisely what they're looking for. We'll see if Colts relent or keep him. And that was in a response to, I think, Big O, because Big O thinks it's not happening at all. So Barry Jackson's coming out and letting everyone know, look, the Dolphins are trying. The Dolphins are trying to pursue this. And that is even in ESPN. ESPN, Stephen Holder, who I think is with the Colts, if I'm correct. He says Jonathan Taylor could be a step closer to getting his wish, but time is of the essence. And essentially what he means by time is of the essence is Tuesday, the 29th. And I've said this on Twitter. He needs to be traded by Tuesday. And why is that? Because he's on the physically unable to perform list. If he stays on the Colts after Tuesday, I think 4 o'clock on Tuesday, and they don't take him off the physically unable to perform list, he stays on the physically unable to perform list until week 4 minimum. He can stay on longer, but week 4 is when he can come off. Like Steven says, the Indianapolis Colts have given Taylor until Tuesday to find a suitable trade after authorizing the star running back earlier this week to engage with other teams in search of a partner. So again, they want to get this resolved by Tuesday for that one instance of the pup. And the other thing, they got to cut down to 53. So they need to know what their running back situation is and all that other stuff. But Stephen Holder also reports saying 6 teams have inquired about Taylor's availability, and 2 of them have engaged the Colts with offers, including the Miami Dolphins, a source told ESPN on Wednesday. So the Dolphins, again, per the source, have given an offer. This is what we will give you for Jonathan Taylor. What do you think? Let's work on it. There's another team that has given an offer, but it's not yet been named. I will say this, though, that it came out from Benjamin Albright that the Broncos have no interest in paying the draft picks draft picks price or salary costs for Taylor. So the Denver Broncos are out. I'm also hearing that other team could be Chicago. Now, some people are saying Philly, but I doubt it's Philly because they just traded for DeAndre Swift, even though Jonathan Taylor is a better talent than DeAndre Swift. So again, where we're at right now, the Miami Dolphins are definitely interested. The Miami Dolphins have talked to the Colts, and the Miami Dolphins have given the Colts an offer, which means that Jonathan Taylor's agent talked with the Dolphins, and Jonathan Taylor does want to play for the Dolphins. Because if not, the Dolphins wouldn't have given an offer to the Colts. There wouldn't be that mutual wanting to happen because there would be no point in giving an offer. Because you give an offer to the Colts and then he doesn't want to come here. What's the point? Also, and this is why I'm trying to make this video and tell you guys this, the Dolphins probably have talked to Jonathan Taylor's agent about a new contract. Because again, he has to want to go to Miami for the Dolphins to have then given the Colts an offer. So that's all situated. They've probably come to some type of agreement on a contract or whatever, and he wants to play for the Dolphins. Because if not, they wouldn't have given an offer to the Colts, right? So there's that. So one, Dolphins are definitely interested and have given an offer. Well, not definitely, but per sources. Two, it has to be done by Tuesday. They are given till the 29th to get this deal done, or he's probably going to stay a Colt. I don't think I have a 3 yet. So then compensation is kind of the thought process, right? What is a fair enough compensation for Dalvin Cook? Also, we're going to read 2 articles talking about this from Omar Kelly and Barry Jackson. So there's this tweet from Dov Keelman, and he has asked essentially a bunch of executives, right? Update: executives don't believe Jonathan Taylor will net the Colts' first-round pick package that is worth that much via Albert Breer. Breer asked multiple executives how much Taylor is worth in a trade with the new contract involved. So an AFC GM said a second-round pick. An AFC executive said a third and a fifth. An NFC executive said package in the value of a second or a third. Second AFC executive said a third or a fourth. Then an NFC executive said a second or a third, less than McCaffrey trade. A third NFC executive said maybe a day 2, which is a second or a third. Then another AFC executive said a third rounder, then a fourth AFC second rounder, fourth NFC said possibly a day 2, and then a fifth NFC executive said a fourth that could turn into a third under playtime and conditions. I'm assuming that meant conditions. So essentially, they're not going to get a first. Because the biggest thing with Jonathan Taylor is the whole reason why there's this whole debacle with him in the Colts is he wants that contract. He wants to have longevity. He's young. He's 24 years old. He wants to have at least a 4-year contract where he feels, okay, this team wants me. I'm going to play hard for this team. So there's that, right? You're not getting a first-round pick. And I have a little bit of ideas of what, the Dolphins could possibly give him or anything like that. So there's that. So now we kind of have an idea of compensation, all that other stuff. Before we get into the articles, because again, I have 2 articles here that we're going to go over real quick. I know a lot of people say the Dolphins don't need a running back. The Dolphins need to focus on Christian Wilkins. The Dolphins need to get offensive linemen. Yes, I said that time and time again. They haven't done it. They're not going to do it. They like who they have on the offensive line, or they're waiting until the cuts happen on the 29th. They're not going to do it. But take care of your own. Christian Wilkins, they don't need a running back. That's the thing I hear the most. They don't need a running back. And that's your opinion, and you have every right to that opinion. But I feel like the Miami Dolphins, time and time again, keep telling us that they don't feel that way. Again, tried to trade for Dalvin Cook. Drafted Devon Achane. Right after drafting Devon Achane, tried to trade for DeAndre Swift, then tried to sign Dalvin Cook, and then it came out that the rumors the Dolphins called the Raiders about trading for star running back Josh Jacobs, but were told he isn't available, according to The Athletic. Cook, A-Chain, Swift, Cook again, then Josh Jacobs, and then there's also that rumor that floated around, I don't know if it's true or not, Saquon Barkley. 6 times. One of them was successful in getting Devon A-Chain. 5 times. Devon A-Chain will take it out of there. 5 times the Miami Dolphins have tried to go after a top 10 running back to add to this team. So again, we could sit here till we're blue in the face saying the Dolphins don't need a running back. The running back room is fine, but the Dolphins keep telling us that they do. Because the Dolphins keep trying to add a running back. Why? They probably want to bolster the crap out of this offense. So you have a top wide receiver, a top running back, and a very good quarterback. Top 10, top 15 quarterback. And all of a sudden your offense starts to thrive. Just imagine having a top running game because your running back is that good. Because you saw the holes that were built in the preseason game. That all of a sudden they can't sell out to the pass. But then they can't sell out to the run because we have the pass. But they can't sell out to the pass because we have the run. But they can't sell out to the run because we have the pass. See what the conundrum is that they're trying to build. So I just wanted to address that, right? Because I see where you're coming from that they don't need a running back. But the Dolphins are telling us they think that they do. So there's that. So now I want to talk about these articles, and then I'll give you guys my final thoughts on all this. So per Barry Jackson, he says Dolphins Colts discuss Jonathan Taylor trade, why it makes sense for Miami. He says the Dolphins are among the teams that have called the Indianapolis Colts to discuss a trade involving Jonathan Taylor. Discussions are ongoing. Miami has made an offer, according to a source. Miami has interest in making a deal, but a handful of other teams also have inquired. As of Tuesday evening, again, that was a while back, the Colts have not agreed on a trade compensation package with any team. Talks with teams were believed to be in the early as opposed to advanced stages. Source confirmed that the Colts want a first-round pick or multiple second-day picks in return for Taylor, who has permission to seek a trade. Ain't happening. The view here, the Dolphins need to make this deal not only because of how it would help Tua, but also because of how it could boost Miami's chances of surviving multiple week injuries to their quarterback, who hasn't played a full season since Dolphins drafted him. So that is also another reason why they think they need a running back, or they need a top 10 running back, is because God forbid Tua goes down, they can rely on the run game and not put the ball in Mike White or Skylar Thompson's hands. Let's be realistic here. Even with its best roster in years, Miami looks like a fringe playoff team, clearly behind Kansas City, Cincinnati, and comparable to the Jets, Ravens, Chargers, and Jaguars, who could win the AFC South by default. If those 6 teams play as well as expected and Deshaun Watson returns to his old form with Cleveland and Pittsburgh builds off a strong finish of last season, then the Dolphins could find themselves outside of the playoff position altogether. A team without a quarterback on the level of Patrick Mahomes or to the extent of Joe Burrow need elite skill position players and a dynamic defense. Vic Fangio. To have any chance of overtaking a team with an elite quarterback, Miami has 2 of those players in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, like I said. Adding a third could create fits for defensive coordinators, giving Miami a dimension it has lacked since Ricky Williams strolled through the door after his acquisition 21 years ago. The Dolphins have 2 good backs in Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson, but a third special playmaker around Tua Tagovailoa is needed to seriously compete in a stacked AFC, certainly as long as Mahomes reigns atop. The difficulty for Miami is not giving up draft compensation. 2 second-day picks ultimately could be enough, but creating the cap space to accommodate Taylor, who could command a salary of $12 to $15 million per year range. The Dolphins are, and now here we get into the money. This is where we get into the money talk. The Dolphins already are $34 million over the cap. But there are ways, some easy, some painful, to clear that cap to sign Taylor and to keep their defensive line together. Christian Wilkins, Sealer, Raekwon Davis could all become free agents after the 2023 season if the Dolphins give Taylor a large signing bonus and a small base salary in a 5-year deal. His 2024 cap number could be kept to a reasonable amount. Again, it's how the structure is. Taylor's making $4.3 million this season in the final year of his rookie deal. Acquiring Taylor would compel teams to respect Miami's running game, creating additional space, again, for the receivers. Dolphins will be far better equipped to run out the clock when nursing a lead. All of this stuff I've already said. Adding Taylor and winning games if to a sideline would be far less daunting. On the other nugget, on the team's running back pursuit, Taylor and Dalvin Cook aren't the only running backs the Dolphins made calls about in recent weeks. A source with another team insisted the Dolphins, again, have reached out for Josh Jacobs. So not only was it from The Athletic, but Barry Jackson also reports that. So again, he's saying if the Dolphins can add Taylor, it will help, God forbid, Tua goes down. Because all of a sudden, and then like I said, it really makes that area dynamic. Then Omar Kelly came out with this article 6 hours ago saying Dolphins serious bidder for Jonathan Taylor. He says, Miami Dolphins have explored upgrading the tailback all offseason, investing in a trade for Josh Jacobs, making an offer to Dalvin Cook, and then appears to franchise sites on Jonathan Taylor. A league source confirms the Dolphins have conversations, yada, yada, this or that. 6 teams are reportedly interested. Dolphins, I already told you all this stuff. Is the price a first-round pick? So Omar says Miami also traded away first-round picks and more to acquire Hill and Chubb. However, it's doubtful this will happen for Taylor despite what Indy is asking because of the complexity of Taylor's situation with the Colts and the nature of his position. The running back position isn't a hot commodity anymore. You took him in the second round. You're not going to get a first-round talent for him, regardless of how good he has done, because you can find a running back very easily in the draft that can pop off, and all of a sudden you have your guy. Taylor has spent all of training camp on the physically unable to perform list, and it's possible he might opt to sit out 2023 season, which is why the Colts backed off their position that he wasn't going to be traded. According to multiple sources, the Colts are seeking a first-round pick for Taylor, but it's more realistic Indy ends up with a second-round draft pick and something extra, either a day 3 selection or a veteran player or 2 returning for a pursuing team's a roster. So again, you're not getting a first. You get a second or possibly a third or a second and a player. The Dolphins potentially could package defensive end Emmanuel Ogbah in a deal, sending him to Indy where he could possibly fit the Colts 4-3 scheme than he does in Miami's base defense, which favors more of a 3-man. Trading for Taylor, then giving him a new deal could create more financial challenges for the Dolphins, who already, earn cap space hell next year. The Dolphins have a ton of impending free agents, like team captain Christian Wilkins, Sealer. We all know these things. In 2022, Mike Daniels' first year as a Dolphin head coach, the team produced the second fewest rushing yards and a second attempt. So, again, there's that thought process. So, giving you my ideas, giving you my thoughts and opinions now that I gave you everything that I can give you and all the information, all the stuff you can find everywhere. Will it happen? Like, am I going to sit here right now and tell you it's going to happen? Taylor's going to be a Dolphin. Oh my goodness, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm not going to tell you that, just like I didn't do it for Cook. It's not about, this is different because it's not about the money. It's not about, okay, Taylor needs to come down, Dolphins need to come up. It's about coming to some type of agreement and understanding with the Colts. Now, the Colts want a first. They're not going to get a first. The Dolphins and many other teams realize, look, Colts, you want a first, it ain't happening. For one, we got to re-sign Taylor to a long contract. For two, if he doesn't get traded, he's going to sit out and you're not going to use him anyway. So you might as well get something for him versus nothing, and then he becomes a free agent next year. That's the thought process, and why a first, possibly even a second, isn't in the realm of a possibility. Now, with the Miami Dolphins, this is what I'm thinking. Now, I'm going to throw it out there, And I know I'm going to get grumbles or get called stupid or that's unrealistic. Omar Kelly kind of already dropped the name of Emmanuel Ogbah and how he really fits in that 4-3 scheme they're running and not necessarily the hybrid defense we're running where they kind of have him, playing outside linebacker and defensive end in the 3-4. And he played the first preseason game when none of the other starters did. Here's my thought. Say to the Colts, we'll give you a second. We'll give you a second if you give us back like a fourth, right? We'll give you a second and a third next year. Something like that, right? You give us a fourth in Taylor. But the reason we'll give you a second, because I bet you no one's going to give him a second, the reason we'll give you a second is you have to take Emmanuel Ogbah and Cedric Wilson Jr. And if they want a running back, we'll throw a running back in there too. I've already talked about this. You got to, and say they're like, no, we don't need Cedric. Okay, Emmanuel Ogbah and Jeff Wilson, you get your running back. Because then all of a sudden, that clears up $16 million in cap space for the Miami Dolphins, and it's only $4 million for Jonathan Taylor this year. And like Barry Jackson talked about, you can give him a big signing bonus and all this other stuff for next year where it's not a big cap hit, and then you can transfer that $16 million over to next year, and the hit isn't as bad. Now you're not sitting at 31, 32 million negative. It's around 15. And then you can make other moves or re-sign players to make that space move. That's just a thought that popped in my head. Like, all right, we'll sweeten the draft pick if you take these guys, if you take on their contracts. That's my thought process. Because if you remember, when we traded Ryan Tannehill, we got a fourth for him. But we got a fourth for him because we paid half of his contract. Tennessee did the same thing, right? We'll take Tannehill, but you pay half the contract and we'll give you a fourth. Same thing. We'll give you a second if you take Emmanuel Ogbah. There's a lot of things, a lot of, moving pieces happening right now. Again, two teams have given an offer. One of them's Miami. I don't know who the other is. Could be Chicago. I'm thinking it's Chicago, right? I don't think it's the Eagles because the Eagles, like I said, just traded for DeAndre Swift. Denver's out. Denver doesn't want him. So it could be Chicago. But that's what I got for you. That's all the information I got for you right now. Dolphins are interested. Gave them an offer. Dolphins have been interested in 4 different running backs. Obviously, they feel a certain way about the running back room. They can't really rely on it like they saw last year. God forbid Tua goes down. Tuesday is the deadline. That's the biggest thing you got to take away from this. It has to happen by Tuesday. If this isn't a Dalvin Cook situation where it's going to be weeks on weeks on weeks of, oh, Dalvin Cook like this tweet and Dalvin Cook like that tweet and is he coming here and he said this in a press conference and this and all that. Like, I'm not making another video. I'm not making another video about Jonathan Taylor. The next video I make about Jonathan Taylor is if he's traded to the Dolphins. If he's not traded to the Dolphins, I'll talk about where he goes in a video, but it won't be its own video. I'm not making another Jonathan Taylor video because there's nothing else to talk about because he literally has 4 days for the teams to to come to an agreement. So next video I make is Dolphins traded for Jonathan Taylor or nothing. So that's all the information I got for you guys. Comment below. Let me know, right? If you want Jonathan Taylor, throw a trade offer. I'm interested to see what you guys think. If you don't want Jonathan Taylor, or if you don't think the Dolphins need to add a running back, which you have every right to feel that way, answer why do they keep going after running backs then? Josh Jacobs, Dalvin Cook, Jonathan Taylor, and rumored Saquon Barkley. Why are they going after top 10 running backs? Comment below. See you guys later today. Again, it's now 1:18. If you're watching it when I dropped it, love you that you're up this late and you're checking it out. If not, see you later today with the last day of training camp, day 18. But other than that, like usual, stay classy. If ends up.